What's going on there, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the other day I actually saw an article written about Vince Zampella. And boy, oh boy, I gotta be real with you guys. This man is an absolute legend. And what I read is just pure utter proof about how dominant he is within the FPS space. And truly, if he's your competitor, he's the last individual you want to come across. And I am so stupidly thankful that he is working with EA on Battlefield 6. He's pretty much up there as one of the top dogs at EA as well. So that means his voice is very influential. You know, a lot of these problems with games nowadays tend to be because of management. Well, Vince Zampella is management, and I think that's one of the main reasons why this franchise is slowly coming back to life, and we're seeing the resurgence of hope and happiness from the overall community. Because at the end of the day, he is truly allowing this team at DICE to cook to the absolute max degree. But ladies and gentlemen, of course, before we go and dive deep, if you guys are interested in more content like this, don't forget subscribing at the bell. Post twice here, once at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and also a second time at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We go ahead and discuss anything first-person shooter related, third-person shooter related. You know, we even go ahead and discuss Skate. I want to plan on discussing GTA. There's all different types of variety on this channel, so make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell to stay notified on everything that goes live. And last but not least, I do live stream over on Twitch Monday through Saturday, starting at around 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And guys, don't forget, this Friday is going to be the Arc Raider stress test. We are going to be grinding the heck out of the stress test all weekend long. So, of course, you want to hop into my open lobbies, see the game with your own eyes, chat it up with me, have some discussions. Find a link to my Twitch channel down in the description of this video. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, as I was saying, Vince Zampella is a freaking legend, and he is not someone you want to go ahead and mess around with, because if you truly want him to bring in competition and help out in the FPS scene, he will do exactly that no matter what side he has to fight on. He's gonna bring everything to the table. This article is actually put together by Tom Phillips, I think on IGN. Of course, I'll leave a link to this overall article down in the description of this video, but I'm just going to read it off bit by bit, piece by piece here. But I want to start off where it says, the only reason that Call of Duty exists is because EA were D-words. Zampella initially worked on EA's Medal of Honor franchise from 1999 to 2002 and served as a lead designer on the celebrated Medal of Honor Allied Assault. After this, Zampella co-founded his own studio, Infinity Ward, with initial plans to continue working on Medal of Honor left up in the air when EA decided to take development of its franchise in-house. In quotes here, for legal reasons, I will say things didn't go as planned with it. Former Infinity Ward artist Justin Thomas previously revealed of the situation in an MCV interview back in 2013. We were left in a situation of unpaid milestones that were delivered and no finances to operate on. It was at this point that Activision answered a last-ditch call by Infinity Ward, intrigued by the potential of working with the team behind Medal of Honor Allied Assault, and driven by the idea of creating a new franchise that could topple EA's own. The rest, as they say, is history. Call of Duty became a behemoth, though Activision and Zampella parted ways following the launch of 2009's Modern Warfare 2, prompting a bitter legal feud over unpaid bonuses and royalties that dragged on for years, until Zampella ultimately earned a sizable payout. That situation then led to Zampella co-founding Titanfall and Apex Legends developer Respawn, which EA partnered with, then ultimately acquired. Zampella was then repeatedly promoted to look after more of EA's gaming portfolio, ultimately becoming boss of the embattled Battlefield franchise, turning its fortunes around to deliver this month's successful release of Battlefield 6. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want everybody to understand how epic Vince Zampella's track record is, and just pure proof that it doesn't matter what game he works on. As I stated, if a company really wants to bring in the heat, yeah, Vince Zampella is the man to do such. It's wild to think that he put together a lot of the OG bangers of the Medal of Honor franchise for EA, which once again started off that, general concept, that idea of those style of games. Then, of course, Activision picks this individual up to bring him over and start putting together Call of Duty because of, things going on with the EA. And Zampella wasn't too happy with that. So he goes from making the bangers at Medal of Honor, then he comes over to bring competition to EA to kind of, rub his, hands in their face, making Call of Duty, which, as we all know, is a massive franchise. That's nothing light. He definitely put together a masterpiece back in the day. Then he gets screwed over by Activision as well, leaves, goes back to EA after already, saying, screw you, EA, I'm going to prove you right. He proved them right. I just want to say this. How many developers do you know can talk so much smack to these publishers, but the publishers will still pick them up and, let them lead the way? Typically, if you talk to the suits in such a way, they're going to say, oh, well, you can't talk to me like that, and, just shove them down and, make their lives a living hell. Zampella doesn't get that. That's how talented this individual is. He talks so much smack, knowing that these people don't know anything about, the game design scene. And then he goes and just absolutely stomps everything out. Again, making the Medal of Honors, EA screws him, goes to Activision, makes Call of Duty to screw over Medal of Honor. And it did. Call of Duty literally put Medal of Honor in the dirt. Then he goes back over to EA because, again, Activision screws him over to eventually make Apex Legends, Titanfall, all of those goats. And later on, putting together Battlefield 6, putting us in the situation where Battlefield is literally dominating and surprisingly pulling a lot of Call of Duty players away from their overall franchise and saying, hey, look, Activision, you're screwing us over so hard. This game is doing everything in the opposite direction. Why can't you do this? And that's all because of Zampella. And the funniest part about it is that, if EA does anything bad here, I guarantee Activision will probably pick him up in a heartbeat after all of the drama, after all of the lawsuits, after all of the bad words exchanged back and forth. Like I said, this individual is so much of a threat in the gaming scene that if a company needs money, they're not going to give a crap what he says about them. They could hire him. He could be under, basically their management, and he'll still talk crap about them to their face, and they will keep him because they know he is the real deal. Absolutely zero jokes are being made around this man because he could put together a freaking fire project. So I just had to put this video together because seriously, this was some insane news. I love, reading about the deep details of all of this stuff and just hearing how Vince has been able to ping pong around from company to company, just basically throwing up middle fingers to both sides, and both sides continuously want to pull him back. I just think that's such a funny concept, and it's so cool to see that he has really made a true path for himself. But I will say, EA, don't be a bunch of morons. Don't be stupid. You have an absolute genius that is managing a lot of your projects, showcasing to you guys that basically everything he touches turns to gold. Put him on Medal of Honor again. What are you guys doing? What is happening? Like, Battlefield is great. And again, it's really stepping up to COD. But at the end of the day, it's Battlefield. It's not going to hold that many COD players. The only COD players who are going to stick around are going to be the ones who want to learn how to play Battlefield, But it's not going to be true competition months down the road, especially when a brand new Call of Duty game drops. It's going to boil down to the base Battlefield audience again. Stop being dense, bring back Medal of Honor, and really give it to them. You guys made Call of Duty scared with Battlefield. Okay, I just want you guys to understand, you made Call of Duty scared with Battlefield, a game that has nothing to do with any elements of COD. Could you imagine how insane it would be if you could take the Medal of Honor IP and actually bring some hype back into it and truly aim it at Call of Duty? Not just, partially directed because COD and Battlefield has always had this little feud and, they've always gone back. No. Vince is a man who doesn't mind, like I said, throwing up a middle finger to the companies that have screwed him over. Vince has not been back at Activision since they screwed him over with Modern Warfare 2 2009. I guarantee if you gave him control of Medal of Honor and said, you know what, this is competing with COD. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, Medal of Honor's cut. We're done. It's a done deal. And just let him at it. This man will go to town and deliver you the most insane product you will ever witness. Make it happen. Stop being stupid. And for Vince, if you can be a little influential behind the scenes, it will be amazing if you could say, hey, EA, please give us a Star Wars Battlefront 3 already. I mean, my goodness. Battlefront 2 is still outstanding, but I mean, come on now. I think it's about time for a Star Wars. I still think EA is holding it in their back pocket for a super duper emergency because you got to think about Star Wars. Basically, there's two types of communities. There's gamers who love it, and then there's the hardcore Star Wars fans who love it. So, that's a guaranteed win for them, right? It's nothing going to be controversial about it. It's going to make money because Star Wars is just a stupidly popular IP. So I'm sure that they're just, kind of sitting on that and, just waiting until they really, really, really need it to come out to make some cash. But still, if you could say a little something, Vince, that would be phenomenal. But I know you're busy. The whole team at DICE is busy. I'm so happy for you guys. Seriously, you guys deserve this W. And for all the people over at DICE, you guys deserve Vince, because I'm sure you guys were going through a lot of crap. Management was probably an absolute nightmare. And the fact that Vince was finally able to get to that management position at EA where he can have some more control and say has probably done wonders for you guys. I mean, I'm already just looking at a bunch of the devs' tweets and them just talking about Battlefield 6, and they just seem so happy about the production of the game, and it was so much fun. And they're saying, we're finally making a Battlefield game right. Like, why else would they say that, right? Why else would they say they're finally able to make a Battlefield game correctly? Because they've probably been screwed over so many times before, to the point where EA has been a toxic influence on the overall franchise. I'm telling you, don't play around with Vince, ladies and gentlemen. This man will single-handedly destroy anything out there when it comes to the FPS scene. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. Post twice here, once at 8 a.m. and the second time at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Pretty much everything FPS, third-person shooter related. I discuss Skate. I want to discuss GTA, Gears of War E-Day when it comes out next year. It's a lot of stuff that I like to discuss on this channel. So if you guys are interested in some variety content, by all means, subscribe and hit that bell. And last but not least, if you guys are interested in my live streams, I stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. If you guys are interested in any of those streams, you can find a link to my Twitch channel down in the description of this video. But as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all next one. Peace out.